Well,
What's up, guys? Welcome to our Tuesday Masterclass. Boy, do we have a banger for you guys today. Got a lot of top producers here who are going to be giving out blueprints. I'm going to go into that in a second, but before we do get started, just a couple of shout outs. Number one, Shova, all of you guys know 19-year-old Shova, Disney princess. She's just been kicking ass, and she's made top producer in her marketplace, standing on top of that mountain in her marketplace for the past couple of months. So she's really gaining traction and kicking ass. I posted a great Instagram reel about her yesterday about, her plugging into the phones and how confident she is. And she's like, Cooley, I feel like an adult now. And it's like, yeah, you're out producing all the other agents in your marketplace. Use a full grown girl. So
so
woman.
awesome.
So woman. So that's great. Also, Brian Gallego cracking into the top 20. Congratulations, Brian Gallego, on that. I think that's fantastic. And a couple of things, guys. Holiday objections on the Breakfast Club. We know that we're going to get nothing but the holiday objection over the next couple of months, right? That's going to be a real big deal, and it's going to determine whether you get paid over the next couple of months or whether you're waiting to do transactions till after the first of the year. Make no mistake about it. These people who you think are your clients, right, who have these holiday objections that you have solutions for, they're not going to wait, because there are people like me, people like Nic Trani, people like the Disney Princess Shova, who are working really hard to overcome those objections, provide awesome solutions, and get them on the market and under contract before that new year even starts. Okay. So if you haven't been committed to joining the Breakfast Club, whether you circle prospect, expired listings, for sale by owners, sphere of influence, however you do your business, guys, you need to plug in, because this is the time of year where the objections are the same, right? No matter where you do your business. So I want to make sure that you're plugged into that. Just in the past 2 days, guys, I've received unsolicited 16 messages of 16 listings being signed just in the past 2 days, including a $6 million listing that all had the holiday objection, right? So take it seriously, plug into that every single morning, 7:30 Eastern time with Nic Trani, 7:30 Central time, 7:30 Pacific Standard Time, all available to you, okay? Also, next, the first of the month is on November 1st. Any of you guys know what the first of the month means?
Big money.
Time to get paid.
Big money. Whoever said that, yeah, it's time to get paid, right? Understand that everything that you do right now, guys, will still get you paid before Christmas, right? Everything that you put on the market now, you will get paid before Christmas. November 1st, biggest prospecting day of the month, guys. And so it's not good enough that we do our normal prospecting time. We win because we go above and beyond, right? We win because we block out that time to go all in on prospecting. For those of you guys who are in Texas, last month alone, you guys had like 500 expired listings. That's 500 people in a market where listings are hard to come by for most, right? They're putting their hand up saying, hey, I need to sell my house. Would you talk to me, please? So if we're not pulling overtime, guys, going after those people, if we don't have campaigns ready to go that include morning prospecting, afternoon prospecting, evening prospecting, and some door knocking, if we're not taking advantage of our tools at that time, we need to. How many of you guys need some more listings? Raise your hand. I love it, guys. Well, that's coming November 1st, and I will see all of you guys locked and loaded on the Breakfast Club November 1st. So with that being said, let's get into the content that we're talking about today. Now, we invited Nic Trani, great agent out there in New Jersey, doing 100 listings a year. We have Andrew Shaghoury, who's a brand new licensee, doing 25 deals just in the past 6 months, all listings. Hammering it down as a brand new licensee. We have Matt Clark up in Washington and Texas, does 100 deals a year religiously, has a mega icon team. All of these guys are at different places in their business, right? Which is the most interesting thing. The coolest thing, guys, is all of these guys are producing right now, right? These aren't accolades that you've heard from 4 years ago, right? I mean, there's the 100 deal a year producer, who's always been a 100 deal a year producer. And there's the actual guys who are doing it right now. And there's a difference, right? In a market like this, maintaining and doing that production is a big deal. And we wanted to share with you guys exactly what these people are doing to kick ass while everybody else is struggling, right? And that's ultimately what we all want to do and why we're all here, right? Because we want to take more listings, we want to kick more ass while everybody else is struggling. Well, there are degrees of separation, guys, that we're going to talk about today. And I hope you guys are ready for it. To let you know how this is kind of going to work, all right, we're going to kind of break this down panelist by panelist. And I want this to be interactive. So I didn't come in with a big plan on all the questions that I was going to ask these people. I want you guys to take an interest in this today, right? And in order to do that, I want your cameras on, and I want you guys thinking right now about questions that you could ask these guys, things that you could implement right now to give yourself a big production boost. How are you doing it, right? But I want to see that the questions start right now, okay? So that way at the end of it, we've got some questions and we're inspired with more questions as the meeting goes on. Fair enough? Are we cool with that, everybody?
Coolly, just so
Yeah.
I put my 2 cents in there. If I don't see your face, I just assume you're doing number 2 in the restroom. You know what I mean? Like that's just how I think about it. You know, let's get our faces showing. Let's get energized. Let's get after it. You know, when you have people that are getting it done in real time this year, dealing with all the same bullshit that you got to deal with during your year, they got to deal with the same stuff. They're making it happen. When you have this genuine curiosity, you know, when I was talking about Nick earlier with Cooley, you know, you get around Nick. Nick is so genuinely curious about the business and the process. You get him around anybody. Like we were with Greg, a few months ago. He has 105 questions to ask Greg immediately because he's so genuinely curious. Guys, if you're trying to grow your business, you should be so curious as this is like your favorite hobby. This is the business of your dreams. And when you have a few people that are doing it in real time in a real big way, you should have tons of questions. Allow that curiosity to come through during the Q&A and capitalize on the opportunity of getting their time. Okay.
100%, you know, and that's one of the main characteristics in a successful person, right? It's when they see people doing the things that they want to do, they've got 99 questions, right?
Yeah.
And they want answers, and they're not afraid to take people's time. You guys have the attention of some really great people doing some really great things, and you got to take advantage of it. So today, I'm going to ask you to not sit on the sidelines, right? Today, I'm going to ask you to inspire yourself, to motivate yourself, to find out what these guys are doing, right? Or maybe even where you're hung up. If you're thinking, man, if I could just get better here, maybe we don't cover it today, right? But maybe Nic Trani's got an answer, and he's like, man, I deal with this every day, right? Maybe brand new licensee Andrew Shaghoury, who's taken 25 listings in the past 6 months, goes, oh man, I dealt with that problem too. Easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. Here's your answer. And that propels you for the next level. Oftentimes, guys, it's not big things that lead to you getting life-changing results, right? It's the little things, right? It's that one thing that you manage to knock over that starts the ball rolling for the rest of your business, right? And I'm sure a lot of you guys can attest to that. It's like there was that one thing that just all of a sudden clicked and made sense for you, and you really started rolling, right? If you've been there, there are levels, and so even if you're rolling now, it's time to unlock levels, right? So Michelle, can you kind of just break down really quickly how this is going to work and how we're going to kind of go from person to person here?
Yeah. And I'm excited, you guys. It's why we specifically asked all 3 of these gentlemen to come in. They're at completely different timelines and seasonalities in the business that I think everybody on here can relate in some way to one of these guys, where you're at now, and maybe you're just months behind them. I know there's a handful of new agents on here, for example, that just got started. Andrew's a perfect example of someone who's 6 months ahead of you, okay? And what he's doing, all the way to then a Nic Trani, who, Nick, you're in your 3rd year, right?
Yeah.
And then Matt Clark, who we're going to round off. So we're going to start with Andrew. And Chris, I'm going to let you kick us off there. We want you guys interactive, so please feel free, but only in the chat, because I want to keep us also to give enough time to be effective with everybody and extract what we want. Like Cooley said, this is going to be very organic. We know the play with all these guys. We coach all 3 of these guys very, very closely. We know intimately the things that are going on in their business, and we want, but we want it to be very open and raw. That it's not scripted, so we want them to share with you guys what they're feeling, what they're dealing with, the good, the bad, the pivoting, all of the above. But I want you guys, like Cooley mentioned, writing down questions. So whether it's something you ask now, I'm going to make sure we have enough time at the end too, to kind of do open forum Q&A as well, once you kind of hear from everybody. but write down your questions. The whole point of this is for you guys to take away tangible takeaways that you can be implementing, inserting into your business plan right now for 2025. Okay. Like that's the objective. So I want everyone paying attention, interactive, write those questions down. Anything that you're dying to have asked right away, put in. But we'll go ahead and start off with Andrew, then we'll transition to Nick, and then we'll transition to Matt. So with that said, Cooley, unless you have something to add, Chris, Cooley.
Yeah, I just want to add that Andrew looks sharp in that custom suit. 3 people died making that suit, it looks like. You look great, Andrew. I'm excited to have you here today.
It was his neighbors in the Philippines or wherever he's at so he had to watch you in the suit and then go to their funeral. That's
Hey, so for those of you guys who don't know, Chris Hardy works with Andrew Shaghoury down there at Pro Agent. Chris Hardy is the Texas real estate goat on Instagram. Absolute savage out there in building listing agents. We're really proud to have him as a part of the co-founders group and a leader within our organization as well. Chris and I both work with Andrew. I think Chris absolutely does the majority of that. I hang out with Andrew on the Breakfast Club, but this guy's here every single day. And so if you don't know Chris, time to get to know him, right? Because he's got a listing agent factory down there that you guys need to see. So Chris, I'll leave it up to you since you're really tight with Andrew, and let's give him just an introduction. Who is Andrew Shaghoury? What was he doing for you at Pro Agent before he even became an agent? Because he is brand new, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. So he had a license. And so, we got together on a Zoom call. And I think we did a Zoom. Our first interview was on Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he did it from like his bed. He's like sitting on his bed or so. I don't know what he wasn't professional. And, we had a conversation. We ended up getting together. Long story short, I think that very, very quickly he believed in what we were doing. He loved like the entire mantra of the ins and outs of like just how we get after it, how we coach, how we train, how we get results. And very quickly we decided like this guy would be perfect for recruiting. And he spent, he had a license, but he spent the first 2 years really recruiting and focusing on building the brokerage as we transition from Hardy and Company Real Estate, an independent firm, to EXP. He just continued that. And he did very well at that. And he makes a really good amount of money on a monthly basis from, the recruits that he brought in, and, he brings them in, we build their production. In turn, he gets, those credits for that. And it's great. And I think what happened for him, and I'd like for him to touch on this as well in a moment, is like, he's involved with so much of the coaching and training in the day-to-day on a consistent basis. And he's watching agents that have access to like really high level coaching and training. And some people are taking advantage of it and some people were not. And there was a time this year about the beginning of May where he's like, you know what, like I'm watching people not capitalize on this stuff. And I think that there's more than enough to work with here to be able to just go crazy and build production. And that's kind of where I wanted him to start off. Like what got you going from, hey, he's still doing recruiting, but what got you to flip it to go, I want to go and try to actually be that pro agent?
Yeah, you're right. It was probably about that May. And, it was just one of those things where it's like, I see Cooley on the Breakfast Club every morning. It's literally laid out. It can't be easier to follow, and it was just one of those things where it's like, I saw agents that we have that are even on this phone call that are really, that picked up steam and, started, doing really good, even, before we joined, co-founders in EXP. But it was like right after we laid out like the Breakfast Club and that schedule and everything of top producers, it's just like, man, this thing looks too easy. I feel like I could do it and I could really crush at it. And then
he said it looks too easy. The recruiter said it looks too. I just wanted to point that out for all of my agents on the call. Go ahead, Shaghoury.
Well, I mean, it's literally just laid out. And this, I'm telling you how I thought, beforehand. Now juggling all these listings right now, might be a little challenging, but I'm getting a lot better at it. But it's just laid out. And I was just like, Chris, I think I can, maybe I could put a break on recruiting or maybe dial back recruiting and still probably go take 2 or 3 listings a month. And then the first month happened, I took 3 listings and I was like, holy crap, like I could do this. And then the next month I went and took 6 listings. And the next month after that, I took 6 listings after that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like now I need to figure out how I could do both of these at the same time. Cause I feel like I like cracked the code here. And it was just, it was just one of those things where, I just kind of caught momentum and I just really never let go of it, I guess so to say.
Yeah, and every day I remind him, do not let go of it, because some of us will get really strong in our business. We'll build some momentum. We have some success, and then you start to coast on those previous successes. And then it's hard to get back in that like authoritative position of knowing that I can go take listings every day. You really do not want to break up the time of consistency of taking listings. You go take 2-3 listings, and then you don't get another listing for a month or 2 months. Your confidence drops, everything starts to drop, and you just don't want to let go of that, right? And I remember he would say, he would go, I need you to work with me on these recruiting scripts more. And I'm like, you're really working on those same scripts every day with Cooley and the Breakfast Club. Instead of it being a recruit, instead of it being an expired listing, you're just making a recruiting call. It's the same type of dynamic. And he would go like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. And then like over time, he would go, man, I got these expired. If it's an expired, if I was calling expired, I can get a listing appointment right now. I can do it. And then it was like, okay, do it. And then I think he's like, let's actually do it. Then he took those first 3 listings, and he's taken 25 since then. I think he's closed on 6 buyer sells as well. So he has done some buyer transactions. And, you know, when it comes to Andrew, this is one of the things that sets Andrew apart from a lot of people that Yolanda and I, are coaching and training. Way too many people overcomplicate the process. What Andrew's really good at is going, hey, what do I say when this happens? And he will just say it verbatim, right? Verbatim. So he'll just, duplicate what's being taught to him versus overthinking it and trying to say it in his own way to where he thinks he's validated or he thinks he's cool. And he kind of cuts out all that time. And so, tell us a little bit about that, because I feel like you're very good at being like a chameleon like that. When you hear Cooley say things or me say things, whether it's like how to get the contract signed or how to set the appointment, what about that process are you making easy that you see a lot of other people maybe complicate a little bit too much?
I really just think it's probably the most important thing, especially on a listing presentation, is the close. I feel like when people go over through the comps, they go over, what their action plan is, what the sellers are going to net. I feel like it's pretty similar between all agents when they go through stuff like that. But at the end of the day, especially with expireds and 90% of our business coming from expireds, they're looking for somebody who's a salesperson and who could close. And I just think that, when I call you and I tell you, hey, how can I close on this person? Even the appointment today, I told you about the for sale by owner that I'm going to be going on. And, it's really just creating that fear of like what happens after the holidays when people are coming back up. And I've already kind of ran that through my head like 2 or 3 times before I go out there on how I'm going to close. And I've had, sellers tell me that they've met with other agents throughout the day, and I meet with them, and I'm the only one that ever closed on them on selling them. And so
that's a shot at somebody within his own office, by the way. That's shots fired.
I was milking that opportunity because when you are in a position, and she'll know what I mean when I say milking the opportunity, is what happens is that some of you think that you're closing for a signature when you're going on a presentation. And in reality, you're not. And if you are, you're not doing it enough. And when you don't have the confidence that you're going to do whatever it takes, close in eloquent fashion, as much as it needs to be done to get the signature, you're probably not going to prospect with that same kind of persistence. You're not going to go after appointments with that same kind of mindset. Let's be real, guys. If you're not going to go close whatever amount of times it's going to take for them to sign the signature, you don't really believe in yourself. And when you don't believe in yourself, that comes through when you prospect, when you do lead follow-up, when you're talking to your database, expireds, and so on. And so I think that and he'll tell you, he needs to get more contacts every week. He needs there's a lot of his business that he has to work on, but touch base a little bit on your ability to understand when something and when an opportunity presents itself, it seems like you just don't run away from it. And you probably notice a lot of these other agents are okay with going on an appointment and just not getting it for whatever reason. What do you think is setting you apart? Because you're meeting with sellers that are meeting with multiple other agents, and they probably would have signed with those other agents. But what do you think, where do you think that gap is for them? And how do you actually capitalize on it more?
It's not really that complicated. And I'm probably going to, get some slack here or make people laugh, but I just don't leave until they sign the signature, until they give me their signature. Unless they kick me out, I'm not leaving. I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not even leaving. And so,
yeah, and some people, Andrew, might say, well, I don't want to be that pushy, right? I don't want to be pushy. Nobody wants to be the pushy salesperson. Can you guys all tell me the if you want to be pushy salespeople or no? Anybody want to be pushy in this room? Anybody want to sell Cadillacs? Andrew, how do you do that without being pushy?
It's really just relating to them. You know, they have goals. They put their property on the market for a reason. You know, they have somewhere to be. And the fact that they're expired, whether they expired in a month, they expired in 6 months, you know, they obviously are very frustrated with the process. And so at the end of the day, you have already worked with an agent that didn't sell the property. And so if I can't even show you that I could sell you on using me to get this property sold, how do you expect me to go somewhere else and find a buyer for you and get it sold for them if I can't even do that for you right now? Can we go ahead and sign the contract, please? And so it's just, you know, it's really just that simple to me. And usually that's the close. That's part of the close that I use. And it works 99.5% of the time.
Well, let's show you exactly. So for example, and Nick asked a great question, and you're absolutely right. A lot of people don't go on enough appointments. Your presentation overall is going to probably be roughly around 20 minutes.
25 minutes.
About 25 minutes. And you're going for the signature at the end of the presentation.
I'm
Maybe
going,
before.
I even go for it at the very beginning too.
Well, that's good. That's a 1 minute. If you try to do the 1 minute, you could get it
I
done.
would try for the 1 minute.
Yeah. And sometimes they sign. Like if they feel comfortable.
I've had it happen once, but at least it in their mind, in my mind, I say, I at least planted the seed that, hey, you're going to get this pen today. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to sign this contract today. I've already implanted that's my goal.
No doubt about it. And the way, guys, if you ever try to put a signature in the beginning of your presentation, which is strong, you need to find out 3 things pretty quickly. Hey, number 1, do you guys absolutely have to sell this property? Number 2, do you feel like the price we've discussed so far is the price that we should market the property at? And number 3, do you feel like I can take this listing and get it sold for you? And if they answer yes to all 3, let's go ahead and get started and give them the pen. If you actually have the huevos to be able to do that in the very beginning, I'm telling you, people will work with you. But if you talk to them for 5 minutes on a phone call, you set an appointment, you haven't really talked to them too many times leading up to the appointment, you're not the best at your presentation, don't expect that to work out for you. But if Andrew's already talked to this person 3-4 times before meeting with them, you know, he set the appointment 2 days from now, he's talked to them 3, 4, 5 times, they know him. He knows them. They're comfortable. They see the way he talks, the way he moves is different than everybody else. He has this air of knowing that he can actually accomplish what they need to be accomplished, right? And so, you know, you can go for that in the beginning, but then let's say we get to the end. What's the first way you're going to close on them that maybe doesn't really work, or maybe it does work? You know, how simple is it? Hey, we've gone through the comps, we've gone through the presentation. What are you going to tell them? And they may say no to it. It's fine. What's the first thing?
I usually try to close after the action plan. So I'll get the price that they want to list their property. We'll come to an agreement on that first before I even move on, because I don't want any questions, you know, whenever we move on. I mean,
an objection there or later if you don't.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm going to handle it right there. I go through the action plan on how I'm going to get them to that price and say, you know, is there anything is there anything that we didn't cover? No, perfect, great. Can we go ahead and move forward and get started? And I hand them the pen with the contract already. I put my listing presentation, the packet, in order of what I'm going to go over it. So right when I flip over to the action plan, here's the contract. Let's go over it. And is there anything else that you have questions about? No? Perfect. Let's go ahead and get started. And then sometimes they say yes. And
before we go to the next thing, guys, how often do you go to a presentation and not even hand them the pen? Do you think that they're going to rip the pen from your hand to sign that contract? Do you really believe that they're going to sit there and rip the pen out of your hand in order to give you $10,000, $20,000 on a commission? It's never going to happen. So please write this down. I need to get better about actually handing them the pen when I go for the close, because they can't sign, you know, in sign language. We need it to be real. We need it to be real. So let's say they say, hey, we got to think about it. We're meeting with somebody later today. We promised a friend that we're going to interview them tomorrow. What's the go-to? Because I want you to end up getting to the close, because we can give them the gold. I have no problem with that.
Sure.
But they just reject it for now and say no. What's your next step?
Perfect. So what do you think that the other agent's going to come in with? Or what are you really looking for that the other agent could come in with that I haven't gone over with you right now? And then, and usually they're like, oh, you know, maybe nothing. Maybe they're going to cut their commission, or maybe we could save money on the commission. Okay. So now I got to go back to the commission. And then you know, I handle that as, you know, if they're so quick to discount your commission before they've even put your property on the market, when you're under contract, is that really the person you want to go battling for you to fight for your money at the end of the day that you're going to be walking away with? And I bring back the seller's net sheet and I circle that, you know, the net proceeds and say, is that really the person you want to fight for your $247,000 if they can't even fight for their own commission? And then now they're on the back foot. Now they're like, oh crap. Well, you know, yeah, I see your point there. Perfect. So why don't we go ahead and get started and I'll go ahead and call that agent for you and we could work together and helping you find a buyer. And then I hand them the pin again. And then, you know, usually by that point I've kind of already got them sold.
But let's say they said, hey, and you got to come in. So he's closed 2-3 times, right? It's part of the conversation. And what he's doing is he's opening their mind to a new perspective. In reality, if that other agent is going to come over and the first strategy that they're going to evoke is the fact that they can reduce their commission, is that the only and first strategy that they're going to be utilizing when they list and market your property? Is that really the kind of agent you're looking for? Right. And so, you know, now they kind of have that new perspective. Now we can go ahead and give them the gold. He'll probably tell you how, when you give them this close, how often do they not sign?
I don't think I've ever used it and they haven't signed.
So he's about to give you a close that works nearly 100% of the time.
So it would be like, Chris, I completely understand where you're coming from. Let me paint a scenario for you. Let's say I'm hosting an open house and this nice family walks in, mother, father, 2 or 3 kids, doesn't matter how many kids they have, but let's just say they come in. The kids are already running around upstairs or they're running around picking out their bedrooms. The wife is already looking at how open the kitchen is to the living room. She's already picturing Christmas and Thanksgiving that's coming up right now. But the husband is on the fence. You know, she's saying it's the perfect house. The kids love it, but the husband's like, you know, honey, we have a couple of other houses to go look at. So let's go look at those first. You know, me being your agent, would you want me to be the type of person to sit there and sell this property and close on them and say that this is the best property for them? Or would you let me just have them get their number and let them walk away and go find and have them maybe fall in love with another property? And 100% of the time they go, well, no, I want you to sell my property.
Let's go, Shaghoury.
Yeah,
I love that. Did I interrupt? Because I just wanted to interrupt real quick and say this is the confidence, guys, of somebody who wasn't even doing what you do for a living just 6 months ago, right? And you hear how he's just talking and acting a little bit different. And it's because he takes the time to invest in the skill set, right? Like this is a guy who you don't have to ask to try to get better. He's completely polished. And so I want you to think about, if I'm going toe to toe with somebody like Andrew Shaghoury and I'm waiting for somebody to invite me to sign a contract and I get I settle for, okay, great. So I'll call you in a couple of days, but I know that they're going to pick me, right? Because that's a famous conversation that I have with agents all the time. Went on a listing appointment. It was awesome. Great. So you got it signed? No, well, they're gonna let me know on Tuesday, but I got it in the bag. They love me. Meanwhile, you got Andrew Shaghoury out there dropping stuff like that. Andrew Shaghoury, that's the face, guys. That face right there is the face of the guy who's taking your listings, of that person that you were certain that you were going to list with, right?
Now,
Nope.
Now,
That's an Andrew Shaghoury listing.
Well, one thing that goes overshadowed right now is you can't just say that close. You can't just say it. If you noticed, when I said the other closes to Chris, my voice was different. When I said that story, I dropped the tone a little bit. I make sure that it's getting through to them. And I look them directly in the eyes. I look through them, you know, because that's the type of person that they're looking for to get this property sold. And so if you want me to do that for you then, how about I show you I could do that for you then by doing it for you right now? Could you please sign the contract?
Exactly. And so what you're doing, guys, is, and I say this to everybody I come across, okay? They are looking at you as the listing agent who's going to sell their property, but they think that you're a listing agent who's probably going to be walking this home with every buyer. They don't do this all the time. So they just assume that you're probably going to be the one that brings a buyer, whether that buyer has an agent or whether they don't have an agent. And so if they don't sign a contract with you, it's because they believe in their heart as of right now in the moment that if you were to have a buyer in their house, you couldn't close that buyer. And so what you're doing for them is because that's somewhere imprinted in their brain. That's their belief. So you're giving them a new perspective and allowing them to participate in it right now. So when you're utilizing that close, guys, hey, you know what? I'm showing your property to a great family. The kids are running around the backyard. They've already picked their rooms. The wife loves the kitchen. She loves the master bedroom. The husband even likes it. The gym's 20 minutes or, 10 minutes down the street. Everything is perfect. Do you want me to get them to put an offer in your property right then, right now? Or say, hey, I'll call you back later. They go to dinner tonight. They go back on Zillow, scrolling at all the other properties that are in the area. And before you know it, they're out there looking at other properties. Would you rather me get them to put an offer right here, right now, or let them think about it? Just like you want to think about hiring me. And when they say, no, I want you to get them to put an offer right then, right now, why would you expect anything different for me and you in this conversation? And they get it. So that's our segment.
I love it. I love it. And to answer the question in the chat, yes, if you're not bringing a listing agreement with you in every listing appointment, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? That's something that's got to come with you no matter what. Though you got to have 2 or 3, 4 or 5 of those in your car at all times, right?
If you're not bringing a listing contract to a listing appointment, it's not a listing appointment. Sorry, Cooley.
Exactly, right. And if you're relying on, but I always have them DocuSign. Fine. How often does that work out for you where you have a great listing appointment, they're ready to sign, and then you go, okay, great, I'll send you the DocuSign, right? Fast forward a day later, still not there. 2 days later, still not there. Oh, boom, listed by Andrew Shaghoury, right?
Yeah, guys, what we do, guys, just everybody knows, if you're going to do a Zoom listing appointment, you actually want to have everything up to where you are walking them through signing the contract during the Zoom. Most agents fail on Zoom appointments because they go, okay, I'm going to send you that offer on that contract now. Sign it when you have some time. Hell no, we're signing it right here, right now. We're on Zoom. Click this, share the screen. I need to see those numbers. I got my assistant over here about to get to work on it, and she can't get started until I get that document signed. And so we can get to work for you, right? And so like that's kind of the mindset. And hey, like everybody do this right now. Print out 10 listing agreements and put those sons of bitches in your car at all times. If you don't have 10 listing agreements in your car at all times, you are not in sales. Remember that.
10 listing agreements, 10 pre-listing packages, or you are not a professional, right? Why wouldn't you have those in your vehicle at all times? You know what I love about this? And guys, if you have questions for Andrew after that, and hopefully all of you guys do, put them in the chat group right now because we're going to circle back to those. Speaking of that, the one thing that I love about who we're talking about next, Nic Trani, is Nic Trani outproduces Andrew Shaghoury by quite a lot right now, for now, right? I'm sitting there watching Nic Trani listen to Andrew Shaghoury, and Nic Trani's listening, and he's writing stuff down, and he's asking questions in the chat, right? Which that's the type of guy he is, guys. And if we want to be professional agents, those are the types of people we need to be, right? So if you don't have any questions for Andrew after that, man, you got to ask yourself, am I paying attention? Because I've got questions for Andrew after that, and I coach him. You know what I mean? And so hopefully you guys are paying attention to that. Michelle, can we just give Nic Trani just a quick introduction, where he came from, what he's all about?
Yeah, so real quick here, guys. Nic Trani, for some of you guys, he needs no introduction. You guys hear this guy every single day working on getting it better. Cooley talks about it all the time, and we've referenced multiple times in this one session here of being selfish with other people's time. He's curious. He wants to know. He wants to get better. One of the reasons why Nic is one of our the greatest people we've probably ever had the opportunity to coach and work with is because he's in our face every single day. Help me get better. Help me get better. Help me get better. And I can't emphasize that enough. But out of New Jersey with the GT Luxury Group with Matt Gavertz, something really fun about Nic, for those of you that don't know him, out of the Jersey market. So when we got introduced to Nic and Matt, so Nic, I'm just going to give the history on it. Nic, this is your 3rd year in the business. Am I correct? Like you're in your 3rd year now.
Yes, it is.
I think you're like 2.5 years in. Okay. He's all clean shaven today. Look at you, Nic. Nic's 23 years old right now. Okay. 23 years old. When we first met Nic, his first year in the business, he had sold 5 homes, working in his family's pizzeria. Okay. We've been coaching with you now, Nic, for how long would you say? 14, 15?
Like 18 months, maybe.
About a year and a half. Okay. And again, going back to the start of this, when we talk about these guys are doing this production right now. Okay. In a market where so many are struggling, you take someone like Andrew, his first 6 months in, look what he's doing. You take someone like Nic, okay, his 2nd year in the business, he's taken over 100 listings in these past 12 months. In 20 listings. As a newer agent, And he's 23 years old, you
And
guys.
it's real quick. It's only because he's got a high level network and he knows a bunch of people in real estate. You know, his dad is the governor of New Jersey, and so he just gets constant referrals. That's correct, right, Nick?
100%. You hit it.
That's not true, right? All of these deals, that these 100 listings, none of them were from his sphere of influence, right? None of them were from referrals from people that he know. In fact, all of these deals, they're not from Zillow, right? Nick went out there and actually generated these deals on his own, right? So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there's a reason why he came fresh out of a pizzeria, dusted the flour off of his apron, got to work, and started taking 100 listings, right? And it's because of the attitude and how he approaches it. So it's been a pleasure of mine to work with Nic Trani for the amount of time that we have. And the one characteristic I can tell you about Nick is, just like Chris said, he's always curious. He's always asking questions, right? He's always the first one to volunteer and the first one to ask questions. And so I want you guys, just with what I've said so far, to think of some questions for Nick, okay? Like, how do you do it? Whatever. I don't even care what your question is. What kind of product do you use in your hair? Whatever that is, I want to see that chat lighting up with, how do I be like this guy who's doing 100 listings and running all over me production-wise, just in the short amount of time that he's been on the planet, which is 23 years, right? So Nick, tell me a little bit about like your start. And I want to keep this really tactical because I want to give these guys some value. I want to know how you do it, what your systems are, right? What that looks like, because you're not just out there playing Pac-Man, right? You're also being really strategic about your time, your energy, and your systems, right? Like, you're dialed in. So just give me an overview of how you started and what that transition looked like.
100%. At first, I'll start off by just saying thank you for the intro. Thank you for the compliments. And it's funny because Matt and I actually had a Zoom listing appointment last night, and we did not make them go through the listing agreement on the Zoom appointment, and we did not get that listing signed just yet. So that is a little thing that I just picked up, and I'm thankful for that. And that's why I show up to these master classes, because there's always ways to keep learning. But so in terms of what my daily life looks like and how we've been able to get the results that we've been getting, I'd say it starts with structure. Like Andrew said, and I absolutely loved it, is when Chris laid down the blueprint, you know, you need to do this, this, and this. He's like, man, that's easy. And it's really just a matter of actually following the blueprint, following the steps, and taking action every single day. Like, there's no one is special in any sort of way. It's really just a matter of actually sticking to the process and doing the work. And it's proven, you know, like these things that Cooley teaches, that Michelle teaches, that Chris Hardy teaches, and a lot of other people teach as well. It's proven, guys. And if it's not working, it's not because of the process. It's simply because you're not working the process. And a lot of people like to blame their circumstances. They like to blame the process. They like to blame the blueprint, because it's easier than telling yourself that I'm the issue. But once you give up control, once you actually blame something else other than yourself, you have zero control at that point. And I'm the type of person that no matter what, even if it is out of my control, I am going to blame myself, because that is the only way I can figure out a strategy to get better and improve. I take full responsibility for where I am at right here and right now.
Nick, walk me through the daily routine of a top producer. Like, walk me through your daily routine, what your goals are, what your metrics are, and what you do from just the time you wake up until, you know, the time you shut it down.
So, okay. So I grew up as an athlete, and, you know, wrestling and football, when it comes to those sports, I always had my pregame routine, I had my game time, and then I had my postgame routine. And, you know, my pregame routine is all about getting myself mentally right. It's all about doing the things I know that makes me feel good and gets me mentally turned on, so that I could be in the position to go out there during game time and put on a show, you know, to produce to the best of my ability. So I treat this the same way. My pregame routine, I wake up, I go to the gym, wake up 4:45, I go to the gym. I actually journal every morning, just setting my intentions, speaking to myself, telling myself all the things I already have. I go to the gym, get a solid workout in. get a nice coffee in, and then I have a call with my partner, Matt. You know, we go through our day, we get ourselves mentally right, and then I hit that 7:30 a.m. role play where I'm practicing the objections and I'm getting myself mentally right. And 9 out of 10 times that role play is harder than the actual phone calls are that I'm going to be going on, that I'm going to be having. Then once 8 o'clock hits, I'm heavily prospecting, dialed in, focused, not focused on getting results more so, but really just focusing on like how good can I be at prospecting? Am I only letting the phone ringing 3 times, hanging up and double dialing? Am I not looking at my phone? Am I just dialed in? Am I really like intentional on each phone call? Am I literally my
Nick,
tonality?
Nick, your business, where does it come from? When you say you're prospecting, what are you doing?
So I mainly prospect expireds, FISBOs. I do some circle prospecting, but I've also built up a large enough database now by, you know, keeping track of notes and getting emails that I throw people. I also prospect my database and follow up heavily.
I love it. So what do you think the tilt is? Like 90-10 expireds and FISBOs versus 10% something else, or what does that look like?
It's probably like almost 100% FISBOs and expireds.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And so, in order to get good at that, like, what do you do, right? Because you hear Shaghoury really polished in terms of the presentation. Like, how do you get good at that? Because it's not just about scripting and stuff like that either, right? It's about system and process and creating time. And so, I think what these guys could really use is number one, how do you get good at that? And when you're on your production level, how do you have time for that, right? So can you just walk me through number one, how you get really good at the FISBOs and expires? Like, what are the important things that you need in order to succeed there?
Well, when it comes to FISBOs and expireds, it's understanding that you're going against a lot of other people and that they're getting a million phone calls. So you really need to figure out a way on that phone call to separate yourself and connect. And one way that I've gotten really good at having those conversations is practicing with the GOAT of all time, Chad Cooley, every single day. On top of that, I would go back and listen to the recordings and write down notes on the recordings. Chad used to always say, Nick, say that word, write it down, cross it out, never say it again. You know, like I take that literal. I would actually write it down, cross it out, and never say it again. So I'm constantly improving. And you know, I understand that I'm on a journey of forever getting better and I'm never going to arrive where I want to go. So I'm constantly, Chad doesn't tell me, send me your phone calls. I'm sending him my phone calls and be like, what happened here? Every single day. I'm writing down my objections. Like I'm seeking every single problem I'm facing in my business and I'm looking for ways to get better. I'm thinking about it every day and it's top of mind. But I'd say that's been the most beneficial thing and really how to get the results in terms of these competitive sources is really just like understanding that 99% of people, when they look at role playing, when they look at writing down notes, because I guarantee you probably 99% of people on this call are not writing down notes. It's because you think I don't need to, you know, you're like that, you're like, I could get by. I could just listen. Like I can get by. I don't need to write down notes. And that's like with everyone. And if you choose to actually write down notes, if you choose to actually pay attention, if you choose to actually do the script mastery program, that's the separating factor. That's the 1%. Like Andrew said, most agents, when they go on that listing appointment, they're not closing more than 3 times. I can promise you that. And it's because they're scared to do so. And it's the fear. That's what's stopping you. It's like everything you think you don't need to do is the difference between you getting the results you want and the results you're not getting.
1,000%. Nick is probably one of the most coachable people I've ever met. And as you can see, like to me, guys, one of the tall tale signs of a top producer or just somebody who's successful in life is how well they take advantage of their resources, right? And so I want you guys all real quickly to ask yourself, what resources do I have right now in my business that I'm not fully taking advantage of? These could be coaches, these could be programs, these could be whatever. I want to know like the top 3 things that you're not taking advantage of that you could be a lot more resourceful with, right? That's important. And Nick is the king of resourcefulness. He's the guy that's messaging his coaches 34 times a day, right? Not afraid to like pull people into his business, not afraid to go out there and ask questions that in some cases he should already know the answers to, right? Or that we've told him 100 times. He's the guy that's just being selfish with that time. Michelle, you had some questions.
I just had one question for Nick, and I was this is what I wanted to kind of get from the very beginning. Nick, you being, you weren't brand new, you were a year in, right? Had closed a handful of, 5 transactions. At what point, I want to know kind of the mental switch, or what made that decision. There's a lot of people on this call, a lot of people that have been in the business a long time. There's a lot of different ways to go get the business, right? What made you decide to go this direction? Obviously, most people know we're a heavy listing centric group, and you started coaching with us, but already that mentality, like what was it that said, okay, I'm going to go do open houses, farming, I'm going to do this, I'm going to work my sphere, I'm going to go this direction. What, paint that out for everyone on here.
So I was watching a lot of YouTube just because I'm, like as Chad said, I just always try and find ways to make things work. Where I was at with my brokerage, they had no help. I was just lost, I had no idea what to do. So I was just trying to find ways to get better. And for me, having data is key. Having a predictable business is key. I think in terms of logic. And when I truly believe that there is not, if some other human can do something on this planet, I can too. And so can all of us. You just have to believe it. And when I heard stories of like these Kevin Mills, these Abe Safas, these people who were doing 40 deals their first year, 80 deals their second year, and over 100 deals in their third year, and all following the same process of having conversations on the phone every single day. And then they broke down the numbers for me. If it takes 150 contacts, let's just do 100 to get a listing. It takes 1,000 to get 10, and it takes 10,000 to get 100. And it's really just reverse engineering those contacts. So when you have a pool of data that's like proven time and time again, like after 100,000 conversations, the average number is 100 per listing, and you've taken 1,000 listings. Like you can't deny that. And it's a matter of just focusing on the input. So for me, the reason why I fell in love with prospecting is because it added some predictability to the business. And especially in a business where there's no predictability, where you don't know where your next deal is going to come from, that issue I never have. I'm just so confident that if I make 40 contacts a day, I do it 5 days a week, the rest will take care of itself. I don't even need to worry. I don't even worry about results at all. I honestly don't even care how many listings I take a month, as long as I hit my contact goal, because I can control that. So that's really why I got into that prospecting side of the business, is because of the predictability.
I love that. So you were looking, this is all way before even meeting us. You were looking for how do I do this business? We're seeing what other people are doing and saw that's how I'm going to go create a predictable, duplicatable business.
And I'll tell you what, yes, because what got me fired up is, I was thinking about how much I'd make from a commission check. Thinking about, obviously, grew up in the pizza business, 12-hour shifts, 72-hour weeks, working with my hands, just, tough business. And my mom obviously working. And not too long before that, I saw my mom. My mom was in the pizzeria Friday night. It was just a crazy night. And she slipped and fell, and like shit killed me. And when I started doing the math, I was like, damn, if I make this many contacts a day, and I was like, I'm going to get this many listings, and this is going to result in this much money, I could retire my mom. I was like, man, and all I have to do is make phone calls. That's it. I just, like, it was a no-brainer to me. I mean, it's really easy. If you really think about the stuff people go through on a daily life, the people that are truly struggling, the people that maybe were in a bad situation when they were younger, they're working 3 jobs, they're really dying to make ends meet. And it's like, we're complaining about making phone calls. We're avoiding making phone calls. We're avoiding driving to an appointment. Like, I don't feel like driving. Like, bro, you're driving. You're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to drive. And like,
Crazy.
if you're having that talk inside your head, like, you truly need to reassess your life. You truly need to reassess your mindset and start being grateful for the opportunity, because you get to drive to make $300,000. You get to drive to make $1 million a year. I get to make phone calls for a living, and I get paid so much to do so, So, man, it's just like, zoom out a little bit.
So Nick, real quick, one more thing. So I know that you eventually, later on in your career, you want to do coaching, right? Like later on down the road, like probably, 10 or 15 years, if I have it my way, maybe, 30, 40 years from now. I want you to audition here right now, okay? And I want you to coach everybody on this call, right? Give them a blueprint on how they can go out there and take 50 to 100 listings a year, okay? An exact plan that everybody should write down on how they can go out there and start generating business now. What can they do right now to get a solid bump in production just immediately, right? Because that's what everybody's looking for right now. And also, like, what can they do on a daily, weekly basis and implement today that puts them on the same trajectory as you? Because like it or not, like I know that you're really analytical, you know your numbers, right? If you call Nick and you ask him, hey, Nick, how many listing appointments does it take for you to convert a listing into a sold sale, right? He'll tell you, right? If you ask him, how many calls do you have to make to get a listing appointment? He'll tell you, and he's frustrated as fuck at the end of the week if he's got 40 contacts and no appointments, right? He's frustrated by that. He knows his numbers and he knows where he needs to go, okay? But I will have to say this, the path that you chose is hard, right? But it's not difficult to do. It's not complicated, right? And so can you just walk me through and coach all of these guys really quickly on what they need to do immediately, especially like going into 2025, to be on the same trajectory and path that you're on?
Okay, and so I'm going to start off with mindset because I think it boils down to making a decision. And the decision you need to make is to have unwavering belief that if you do not give up, that you're going to succeed. The next decision you need to make is that you're going to commit to this for 90 days and you are not going to miss one single day. And I'm telling you, if you don't see results for 86 days straight and you quit, you failed because you didn't stick to 90 days. And it may take 91, 92, or 93. So do 90 plus 10. So commit to 90 days, make the decision that you believe in yourself, and then never think you know enough. Never think you're good enough because you don't know you're good enough until the bell rings and your hand is either raised or not. So now you got the mindset now. Now you're always going to be learning every day. You got the belief in yourself and you're not going to quit. So you have those three things, you wrote them down, and you're going to do that 100%. Now we're going to get tactical. So you need to have a structured schedule. 99% of agents, you hear it all the time. I got into this business because I have freedom now and I could do whatever I want. F that. Go try if you went to go get food somewhere and they said they were open at 10, you show up, they're not open till 12, and then the next day they open at 8, and the next day they open at 3, they'd be out of business. That's not how you run a business. If you want to run a business, you open up at the same day. If I hired somebody to take my salary right now and they showed up late to work or whenever they wanted, they'd be fired in a heartbeat and I'd find somebody else who wanted to do it. Treat yourself the same way. So you start with a schedule. In that schedule, I'll tell you mine, 7:30 a.m., I'm role playing, I'm practicing, I'm getting better every single day. I got myself coaches, Chad Cooley, Michelle Wilson. They train me every single day. I have myself a partner, Matt Gavertz. He holds me accountable and I do everything with him. 8 a.m., I'm prospecting from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. I would go to 11, but Coach Cooley's got another role play and I need to be on it again. So I'm playing for 1 hour every single day. And then I'm calling for 2.5 hours in the morning. So now I've practiced already. I've already got 1% better. And I'm lead generating and I'm hitting 40 contacts. That's my goal. But you can start off with 25 if that's what you want. If you make 25 contacts a day, you should still take 4 listings a month.
And let's just say, Nick, real quick, let's just say nobody has a database, nobody has any friends, they're not likable people, right?
Understood.
This guy. And so what do they prospect? Because I think that's what people struggle with. Well, what do I actually call?
Understood.
Who do I call? What do I do? Internet lead? What do I do?
Understood. So if you're someone who's not on a team, you have nothing. Listen, I guarantee everybody here has some habits they spend money on. That's a waste of money. So you're going to invest a little bit in your future and you're going to go buy some data. You're going to buy some fresh expireds and you're going to get some FSBO data, or you could use Zillow for FSBO. But I recommend starting with FSBOs and expireds simply because they're the lowest hanging fruit. And somebody asked 20 to 45 contacts. That's daily, 25 contacts a day and you don't stop till that happens. So you get a list, you get expireds, and you get FSBOs, and you make 25 conversations. I will tell you, I got so lucky when I first started calling. I just like made enough calls. I said stupid shit on the phone, and they ended up calling me back and telling me to come go on an appointment. So you will get lucky if you just make 25 contacts to FSBOs and expireds. So I would
But we're not
start
here
off.
to get lucky. Let's just make no mistake about it. We got the Breakfast Club every morning at 7:30 so that you don't have to get lucky. Michelle, drop the link. You guys are all invited. Go ahead, because luck isn't good enough. Like, you could cut down, you could get the same results in an hour that takes most people 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours if you get skilled. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
And
I
he's
call
right,
it
because
yourself in a position to get lucky. That's what Nick's talking about.
exactly. And Cooley's right, because if you look at my data from 23 to 24, everything changed once I started training every single day with him. So anyway, so now you've gotten the morning down, you've prospected, you did all that stuff. You could be like Michelle Wilson and skip lunch and never eat till about 8 p.m. at night. But if you're like me, you're going to take a 30-minute break and you're going to eat lunch. And then after that, the next hour to an hour and a half, that's if you have clients, that's when you're servicing them. You may not have an admin yet. So you're doing your admin stuff, you're organizing your database, you're servicing your clients. And then after that, you either have trainings that you scheduled out because you're always improving. You're either practicing your presentation or you're going on appointments. And if you have no appointments, beautiful, because guess what? You got time to prospect again. So you should be making 40 to 50 contacts, because if you don't have business, if you don't have any business, I don't know what the heck you're spending time doing, because I don't know how you could have time doing anything else if you're not prospecting for business. I don't know. If you don't have business, I can't see what you're spending your time doing. And you need to have a definitive start and end date, end time, because like most people, they'll think, oh, I don't have appointments this afternoon. Great. I could take the afternoon off. But it's like, no, I finish work at this time. So I'm going to work until this time and then I'll be done. So I'd say if you guys just followed that schedule of practice, prospecting, servicing, appointments, and if no appointments, prospecting, you give yourself 3 years, you will change your family's life, because most people want results in 3 months. But like, imagine if you spoke to 30,000 people in 3 years. You're telling me you're not gonna close 1% of that?
Hey guys, by the way, when Nick first started prospecting, when I first got a hold of this guy and I started talking to him, his prospecting calls were like, "Hey, this is Nic Trani. Hey, you got a beautiful home and a nice garden." Like, it was just like Nick's talking to his grandma. You know what I mean? And now if you heard him, you'd be like, "Oh my goodness, that guy's an absolute animal." And that's why he's able to do a lot more. He's not relying on luck now. He's relying on skill. You know what I mean? And so getting skilled guys, like you saw Andrew Shaghoury, it's a difference, right? There's no such thing as naturally good or naturally bad. There's trained and there's untrained, and that's it. You know what I mean? And getting trained will be your degree of separation from everybody else in your marketplace. I promise you. And I say that every morning. And so if you got questions for Nick, write them down. Michelle, I know that we got to keep this moving. We got Matthew here.
One last quick second.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who to prospect, like, just have a conversation with literally anyone. If you have 25 conversations with literally anyone, and just say you're calling your sphere and you're asking them how they're doing, they're going to ask you how you're doing, and you're going to eventually tell them you're in real estate. And if you just talk to 25 people, FSBO's expired, circle prospecting, just call the neighborhood and just talk to them, you're going to do business.
Get out of your own way. Get out of your own way, and stop escaping the business is what I get from everything he's talking about, which is great.
I love that. Who said that?
That's Chris.
Oh, that's Chris. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All right. So, hey guys, Nick's going to stick around for a Q&A here. Now we've got Matthew Clark, and Matthew Clark is a certified badass. What he's done that these guys haven't done is Matt's been doing this for years. By the way, see the guitars in the back? Actually has a YouTube video with Snoop Dogg, Rockstar. I just had to point that out. Actually did a music video with Snoop Dogg. I have to say that every single time. Michelle, if you could give Matt a brief introduction, I would love that.
Oh, thank you, Matt. I'm so excited that you're on here just to give you guys like a whole now shift of a different perspective of an agent that's been in the business, I think for probably 12, 13, 14 years now, Matt. So I actually know Matt and Margaret personally. I've known his wife, Margaret, for 20 years now in the business since we were little kids when we got our start in real estate. So I've known these guys for a lot of years and they run an incredible business. You're talking about someone here that's, we're going to touch into kind of, Matt, like, what were you doing when you started, right? All the way working up to, someone that's selling 100 homes a year, you guys. Personally, they run a mega icon team here at EXP. Not only that, okay, Matt, they're also in 2 markets. So Matt's from Washington State, like I am. They have a whole team that they operate in Washington. Also relocated their entire family to Dallas, Texas, just so you guys know. So they're an incredible resource there and building out their business from scratch. So going from establishing a business in Washington to now relocating to a new market and also building their business now from scratch all over again, right, Matt? While still maintaining what they're doing in Washington. So these guys are incredible. We've been working with you guys for quite a while now with your group, your guys' office and your team. And so Matt, if you could share, and this is, I think, for everyone to kind of take away, just kind of the where you kind of started and grew to, and then even take what the challenges that come from a market for a more seasoned agent like yourself and the pivoting, right, that you've done. And so, Cooley, I'll let you chime into, but Matt, I think if you just kind of start, I'd love to know for the group, because everyone's different here, like where were you starting, right? When you first got started and was like, I'm going to go create business, where did it start?
I had kind of a different upbringing in this because I was a touring musician for a long time, met my now wife, Margaret, who'd been doing real estate for a long time. She was very successful at that time, knew what she was doing. Having access to internet on the tour bus, I was able to say, hey, I can get licensed and help you. I had no intentions of doing real estate. I was only getting licensed to just help out because I had nothing but time in my hands. So I got licensed, started the whole process. And then as things progressed and we settled down, I said, okay, well, I quit touring music and said, well, now what do I do? Oh, I guess I'm a realtor. I guess I can just do that. That's kind of a fallback. Why not? But the good thing that I had on my side was the training that Margaret already had. I got to circumvent a lot of those early years of like you trial and error, you screw up, you fail, figure it out. I got kind of an early coaching on here's the process. Here's the systems and processes we utilize for success. So I got kind of streamlined into that. But even then, we were new to a new area. We relocated. We changed our business model multiple times, and that's not to say it's a bad thing. We trusted our gut. We would relocate to a new area and figure out how do we get business here. And that's not just right now relocating back to Dallas where I was living before. That's been kind of the thing that we just trusted our gut and said, where do we want our life to go? Where's the business at? How do we make it happen? And then hone in on it and lean into whatever your opportunities are. So talking about like as the new agents, who do you call? What do you consider a contact? Anything. Expireds right now are so huge because when I first got in the business, the market was very similar to how it is now. It wasn't on fire. It wasn't, you just put a sign in the yard and call it good and you just made a bunch of sales for doing nothing. You really had to work at it. And at the time we were selling in Seattle where we were up against Chinese investors who it was really hard to get your foot in that door. You were just getting outbid every time. You couldn't get the listings. So we had to pivot and figure out what do we do? So cut to this current market where there's a lot of people that had been in the business a short amount of time to saw how easy it was to get business going without having to try for it. Well, I'm looking at this as an opportunity to really pick up the slack where a lot of agents are exiting the business. They realize, oh, I got to work for this. This isn't fun. This isn't easy. So
this isn't real estate, right?
Right, exactly. You mean this is a
isn't real
job?
estate.
My God, I have to make phone calls and follow up.
Yeah.
My God. So figuring out your process of where's your niche? How do you fit in? What opportunity, what advantage can you offer to your clients that's going to help them and help you make money? Right? What are you offering them? This is not I'm going to put a sign in the ground and just collect a check. You got to figure out what can I do to earn that money? And that's what's going to keep the business flowing to you. Always be thinking one step ahead and putting in the work every single day. So where I started was in not a terrible market. Margaret went through the whole 2008 crisis. And so that was her mindset. After coming out of that on the tail end was when I got into business, I think 2013. So coming out of that tail end of it, she still had that minimalist mindset of no, we're not doing that. Here's how we're doing it. You know, she was in a certain frame of mind at that time point. So learning good habits early on and sticking to them. That's consistency is key. That's what's going to get you going in the business. And then as we started growing, we ended up transitioning to a different area. We were actually having a new house built up north in the middle of nowhere. We had a summer home out on Hood Canal, which is the Olympic Peninsula of Washington, middle of nowhere. And
From everything.
what?
And hours and hours across the state, like totally different market.
Yeah, Olympic National Forest. Like there's 2 agents that had no cell phones. There was nothing, but it was beautiful, and there was a draw to the area. I'm not kidding about the no cell phones. It was mind blowing. And as we were just going to spend the summer at our cabin while the house is being built, and I was like, well, if I'm here, I might as well take the opportunity, try and sell something here. So we did, kind of stuck a toe in the water and went, this is untapped. No one's doing anything out here. Like, let's do something. So we, you know, started taking some business out there and realized that when we were trying to do Zillow at that time in the Seattle market, the ROI and the cost per lead wasn't on our side. We just couldn't get a foothold in it. It was too impossible. So when we went out there, we got lucky in the sense that no one else had really done it yet. But what we did is we took kind of an untapped, unknown at that time area and brought in our skill sets that we've been utilizing in the Seattle market to this small town and went gangbusters. Zillow, we ended up, looking at, okay, well, let's look at what the market share is in Zillow. It was untouched. No one was investing in that hood sport market in Zillow. So we ended up buying out the zip code, and our ROI was so high that Zillow called us and said, what are you doing? How are you doing that? I said, no one else was. So we got lucky in that very unique niche situation. But with that, I'm doing real estate coaching. I'm doing all this different stuff that, like Nick was saying, you're your own worst enemy in that regard, that if you're not putting the mindset into it, you're not doing those things, you're stealing the business from yourself. So as we were doing this coaching and I'm listening to all the things they're saying about here's what you do to get business, I remember thinking to myself very often that doesn't apply to me. That doesn't work here. I can't do that. And I let that be a barrier. I let that get in my way. Thankfully, we were still doing well enough in that area that it wasn't really hurting me, but it also was limiting me of how the potential that I could get to. So as I'm sitting there going, that doesn't make sense. I can't do that, whatever. I started to slowly peel those layers back and go, well, what if I could? What if I did something different? What if I could do this? And start putting the application to it. And then, from there, our team, it was just Margaret and I, small thing. We just had our own little shop out there, and that's grown to, I think we have 14 agents in our office now. And so with that growth has come, the ability to kind of scale back my production. So here we were in a market, we shifted markets. I had to start over, built that up, built a team. And now I've kind of done it again, where now we've moved our family back out to Texas. But, I'm trying to utilize the office to say, okay, I brought in so much production myself personally. I'm trying to roll myself out of that production in Washington and then ramp up in Texas. So right now I'm in a very fun kind of a season of my career to where I did something and now I'm starting over again.
Brand new.
With that comes opportunity. It's a whole new mindset.
I want to ask a couple questions to you, Matt. I think a couple of takeaways for all of you guys to come here that we work on directly together, right, Matt, is you talk about, so if you guys just kind of understood that, so they've relocated and pivoted and started all over again multiple times, not just once in the tenure of their career, right? And have had, it wasn't just, I'm in a new market, what do I do? They looked at what are my opportunities? How am I competing? And how do I differentiate myself? And this is something, Matt, I would love for you to kind of share a little bit when we talk about this, is you're even right now, you're looking at what's going on in the pulse of the market that you're in the heart of Dallas, right? You look at the pulse of the market that you were in Washington currently, but also that where you at before, and you're looking at what are we doing? What's everyone else doing? How do we compete? And how do we make ourselves unique and stand out to the competition? And so if you could share a couple of things, and we talk about, just kind of pivoting, right? Constantly pivoting with the market, not only with these major changes that you guys do, just so you guys know, this whole better part, I think of this whole year, Matt, every time we talk with you, Matt's on a plane back to Washington for like 2 weeks out of the month, goes and takes his 10, 15 listings, flies back to Texas with his young family. He's got 2 young children.
Three now.
Three. Gangster. Okay, so Matt, I would love for you to kind of share, but I think that's if everyone's kind of taking that away, it's, you know, you mentioned you went out to this kind of remote area, got lucky. Sure, but it's not that. You guys made a decision. They were building a new house on the opposite side of the state. They're in the business of real estate. This is how they make money. This is their business, right, Nic Trani? And they went, okay, how we make money, how we build a business, how we provide for our family, what makes the most sense, what's the best opportunity, how do we want to do it? And they made decisions based off of that. Does that make sense to everybody? And so, Matt, if you could share, there's a couple of things that you had kind of shared with us just on, I think that would be helpful, beneficial to everyone. And when you also look at doing, making yourself stand out to be different, we were even talking about your guys' approach to always getting your reviews. As you guys can see, different approaches here. They've worked a lot in lead generation. Matt, I know you door knocking, prospecting, all of the above.
Okay, so for instance, when the biggest gamble we ever took was like physically relocating full time. We pulled the plug on that new build, didn't even finish it, and ended up going to the hood sport market. And so when we were looking for opportunity, how do we make this work? How do we succeed? You know, we're in a new market that there was no one else that was really, taking the bull by the horns at that point. So we said, how do we establish ourselves as the go-to? And a lot of that was, it was a small town feel to where if you were a Keller Williams or a John L. Scott, like a major name in that small town, they wouldn't want it, right? It was a really weird kind of a small town feel. So, by us coming there, we said we have to establish ourselves as like the grassroots upstart, like connected to people. And we did that. And part of our process, like I said, Margaret is very, very good at systems and processes. That's what she does. And so we created new systems and processes tailored specifically to this market. And part of that was we realized that, a lot of the business that's coming there was a lot of second homes, a lot of investment properties, that type of a situation, to where we said, okay, online presence is key, because there was no one was doing online presence out there at all. There was no tech savvy anything going on. So we said we need to establish ourselves as like the online face. So every time we would get a closing, we strategically did, and this was a very, very big shift for us that really, really worked. The closing process, we say, okay, we're released to record, we're getting ready to record soon. Yeah, I always let my clients know what's going on in the process. So right before that, they're super excited. Hey, I just wanted to give you an update. We're getting ready to record. In the meantime, I'm going to send you this review. If you don't mind filling it out, that's really going to help. The way we did that, in the timing that we did it, was such a game changer, because we're catching them when they're super excited to close. The deal's not done yet. That's the highest likelihood that they're going to engage with that review process and fill it out. And they did. I mean, we got so many reviews. We would ask for them before. Some would do it, some wouldn't, whatever. But by the time they closed, they're excited. They're moved on to moving their stuff in. They've got other things going on. So we try to catch them when the timing was right for them to fill that out. They would fill it out, and that only boosted our numbers more, because the more reviews we had,
bye.
the more reviews we had, the more our presence was respected in that area, especially from an online point of view, because so many people were looking at real estate there from out of town. I saw a question in the chat earlier about out of town. How do you deal with that? A lot of that had to do with our online presence, to make sure that whoever's looking from afar, they're going to find us and go, that's who I want to work with. That was our key. That was what we really focused on and leaned into it. And that's what really built our brand out there, for sure.
I hope you guys took notes on that, because that's huge. And I saw that question earlier too. Just so you guys know, for everyone, we've had 100 agents on here. You guys are all over the marketplace. We got multiple people here in second home markets like Matt. That's where their bread and butter is now in Washington. It's a second home market. So I think that's a huge, huge pointer there, Matt. And not only, I love that process that you guys do, because again, they've already done it. They figured out what gives them the highest return. Not only does that matter foundationally for all of us, because we need to have that online presence, we need to build up our reviews. Everyone is looking us up online, guys. But I would say, especially those in outside markets, because you're being researched. They're looking up who's the best agent in Hoodsport, who's the best agent over here on the coast, right? Or whatever it might be. That's even more so an emphasis. Matt, is there anything else? Just because I know we went overtime here, guys, but this has been so good with everybody. So I want to do some open forum Q&A for the whole group in a moment. Matt, is there anything else with that you would share? So kind of going through, you've gone through all these different transitions and growth of running a successful business, you know, and team. Any just a couple of top takeaways that you would leave the group with from your end, that's helped you guys sustain the volume and production that you guys do?
I really like the point that was made earlier about get out of your own way. You know, trust the process. You don't know everything. Always be learning. I love that. You know, that's I've lived that my whole life. So Breakfast Club, okay, I have spent so much money flying all over the place to go to these mastermind groups, to listen to sales calls, and you know, how do I build a more stable environment of selling? Okay, well, guess what? After looking at all those things I paid a bunch of money to do, I have access to it every single morning. Cooley is he's phenomenal, you know. So lean into that, you know, listen to what they're saying. And if you have questions, like I'm seeing in the chat about how do I do this or that, bring it to the group, ask it that way. Because the thing I like about the Breakfast Club is it's always something that's relevant to our business right now. Like right now, we're doing the whole holiday objections and everything. You know, if there's something you want to work on, bring it to the group and let's see if we can implement it and get those things answered. Because if it's a need you have, guaranteed someone else has it. So if you're looking to sharpen your skill set, focus on it, work on it, grow it. That's the biggest thing. Find how you can go through and get business out of nothing. Expireds right now are amazing because so many agents that didn't know what they were doing got these listings and couldn't get them sold. So now you need to figure out what can you do. For instance, I've got an expired listing. I went to go door knock that entire neighborhood. The first thing I did is I looked at every other expired or canceled listing in that neighborhood and made a list of those to ensure that I hit those. So when I try and get that business, I can show them that I did something different their last agent didn't do. That earns the trust to get you that business.
I love
do
it.
things that no one else wants to do. That's how you succeed.
That's the factor. Thank
I
you, Matt. I
love
want to
that.
make one more pointer and then we'll open up to Q&A, guys. And Matt, we actually talked about that this. What I love something so much, and I think you guys will see this common across the board of all three of these guys, is whether you're just getting started like Andrew, whether you're trying to take over the entire planet like, you know, Nic Trani, you're consistently running at that high volume and all the years in, like Matt. I love that he said it's getting out of your own way. And Matt asked today, so it's like what's the number one thing that you need personally in your business right now? And he said daily accountability.
That was offline before this call. She asked me that question. That was my response.
Yeah.
And I love that so much. No matter what our volume is, how long we've been in the business, it's and then Matt even talking about, you know, where you're starting back, all these things foundationally that we build on the ground floor of rebuilding your guys' business in Texas. So thank you so much for that. Cooley, anything else you want to add? But I want to at least have a little bit of time here to
Yeah, really quickly. I'm getting a lot of DMs saying like I'm upping my goals to 5 a month. I'm doing this. We got an Olympic gold medalist on here today who's like, I'm going all in on this, right? So the cool thing is like people like Matt, people like Nick, people like Andrew, they're not above the accountability and training. Accountability, guys, if you want it, it's not a one-way street. It's not somebody calls you and harasses you all the time. Although I will, right? Because you guys all know me here. Raise your hand if you know me and I'm that guy for you. But it's about you being transparent and you wanting accountability. Like you've got to be accepting of accountability. Accountability doesn't mean like you just want somebody to call you out. Accountability means you be transparent with what you're doing, good, bad, indifferent. You're not Homer Simpsoning yourself in the bushes, right? And you're constantly asking people, how can I get better? You're pulling at your resources and your coaches, right? People can't see you as an independent contractor and real estate agent if you make yourself the invisible agent, right? And the invisible agent gets invisible fucking results, if that makes sense. The one thing that I wanted to say on here too, and it's really humbling to hear all of you guys talking about the Breakfast Club. I swear to God, I didn't ask anybody on this call to say anything about it before they jumped on, but it's where we go to like start the accountability, right? Something to show up to every single morning, something to build your skill set. And the first right action every day leads to the second right action a day, leads to the third. You know what I mean? So even skill building aside, man, it's important that you show up and be there. But this is not about that. This is about our panelists. And I want some questions, guys. So yes, I'd love for you guys to jump in the chat. I'd love for some of you guys to put the little hand up on the Zoom so that you could actually ask a question. And I would be dialed in on going, hey, what are you guys doing? Ask some technical questions, right? I know that sometimes we jump on these meetings and you hear about mindset, right? And make the dials and stuff like that, get the contacts, and you think, oh, for fuck's sake, I've heard this before. And it's like, yeah, you hear it from all the top producers, don't you? And it's weird, huh? And you hear it from every motivational speaker that you listen to on YouTube. Discipline, consistency. It's not a coincidence that all these high level people say a lot of the same things, right? But for some technical advice, right, now's the time where you jump in and you say, all right, I got the accountability part. I'm doing that. I got the effort part. I'm doing that. Nic Trani, yep, that mindset, I'm taking that on. But let's get a little bit technical here. So put your hands up emoji on there. I don't know how you do that on Zoom, guys. I'm old now, but do that. And let's get some questions. And don't be a silent Susan. So who's got the first one?
Let's hear it.
Andrew, how many times does it take you to close a listing? Like to get how many on average? How many times does it take you to ask for the business?
Hold on? I'm going to let him finish that question in a minute. I know I feel like Kanye West, but I'm going to let him finish in a minute. But Beyonce had the best record of all time. No, real quick. Notice the first person to take advantage of like Q&A. It's one of our fucking panelists. You know what I mean? And that should say a lot about this guy, right? And so be like this guy. Nick, I'm going to let you finish your question. And then I want you guys to think about what challenges you're having right now, what you actually need help with. Even if you feel like this isn't the place for you to ask a question, you've got to be that annoying guy like Adam Fawcett, who just put his hands up, that's going to ask the question. Misa, you're not closing enough deals to not be asking a million questions, to not be jumping in here. Ashley Deep, you got Nic Trani here. You better be asking them questions. John Jacobs, I know you need to get better. Let's rile it up and ask some questions.
Let's
then.
go.
Nic Trani, let's go.
Andrew, on average, how many times do you have to close to get a listing signed?
Between 4 and 7.
Sheesh.
I love it.
And
There's sometimes where it happens in like 2, but realistically, it's probably between that 3, 4, 5, 6 number.
What he's doing, Nick, is that he hasn't asked that ending question. He's trying to get that signature before going for like the big big aha, question. And I think that's probably what happens, right? It's like it's either you're doing that on the 4th, 5th, or 6th time. I actually think if you did it on the 2nd time, they would just sign the contract. But 4 to 7, do you guys have what it takes to ask it 4 to 7 times?
Yeah, I just don't leave. I just don't leave until they kick me out. I just keep going.
And you're also not pushy about it, Andrew. The difference between pushy and aggressive people appreciate because it's your first audition to be their agent, right? And just like you said, like what kind of agent do you want, right? When you're engaging with buyers, do you want somebody who's going to advocate for you, or do you want somebody who can't advocate for themselves? Difference between pushy and aggressive is how you make people feel. Are you looking out for them, or are you looking out to just get a contract signed? That's the big difference there, and that's what Shaghoury is really good at, especially thanks to Chris and that constant listing presentation practice that you guys do on a weekly basis down there. Let's go.
Wait,
Andrew.
hold on. I want you guys to understand this real quick. So Andrew right here, to get those 26 signed, he didn't go on 50, 75, 100 appointments. He went on 32 appointments to get the 26 signed. That's profitability, baby.
Andrew,
Yes.
these guys love to keep talking, so I'm going to cut them off. What would it take for us to listen to you do a presentation?
We do one every Wednesday, actually, on the Pro Agent group.
Okay.
Maybe we should schedule one to where we could open it up for everybody. And I'll do it.
Yes, I would love to listen to you.
Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you would love Shaghoury to do a Tuesday masterclass with his listing presentation.
Yes,
You
my
guys all
hand
show up
is
for that?
raised.
I would love to do that.
Well, it looks like you have no choice now, right?
That's good.
Awkward
And
position,
the
right?
words of the great Cody Chod. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. Next up, who else has got a question?
Me, let me ask.
Go ahead.
Yo, so I heard Nick, I heard you say that you do a role play, you do a breakfast club from 7:30 to 8, and then you hop on another role play session from like 10:30 to 11. So I just want to know, what would we have to do to, and this is kind of for you too, Cooley, to get into like more role play sessions, more breakfast clubs where we're being exposed to more like of a variety of different agents. Because I want to improve my skills too, and like him doing 2 breakfast clubs is something that I love the idea of that. So like, what do we have to do to just
So
get in more clubs,
So
getting those
I
replaced.
wouldn't say you need 2 breakfast clubs. It's more of like Chad always says it. Like what Chad teaches, if you're on that breakfast club, you're only getting 1 or 2 reps, maybe a week, maybe 3 reps. It's going with some one other person who's a savage like you, who's willing to push you past your limit, make it harder for you every time, and role playing one-on-one. So you're getting 10 reps. Because at the end of the day, it's a matter of how many reps you're doing. Like that's really, it comes down to like how many reps you've taken on something. So this guy, Andrew, yeah, he's in the business for 6 months, but I guarantee you he's probably done more listing presentations practicing than other agents have actually done in their life.
Probably.
Also, he's role playing. So what he's doing is he's role playing from 7 to 7:25, and then he's role playing in the Breakfast Club from 7:29 to 8 o'clock. So everybody within Pro Agent, we coach them on. You need a role play before the role play, and then you're actually taking the things that you learned in the role play the day before and utilizing them into the role play with your partner in the morning. Because what Nick's saying is so true. Most of you guys, this is the problem. Most of you are so scared and timid that when the Breakfast Club is going on, you're not jumping out to go, I'm next, I'm next, I'm next. And because of that, you're lucky to get on there once or twice for a couple reps. So Nick is like, what he's talking about is like, you need 30 minutes of just going back and forth with role playing. And for him to do that, he's hopping on both of those, which is powerful.
Is that the same link, the Pro Agent link?
They're all, hey guys, you guys have access to all the breakfast clubs, Eastern, Central Time, and Pacific Standard Time. So we throw the links out there on our Facebook page. If you guys aren't a part of the co-founders group and you would like to attend, the link is in the chat. That's for our Pacific Time one. But yes,
Nick, do you run the 7:30 Eastern Time one?
I do.
I need the link for that one too.
You have to wake up.
Yeah, I need to wake up.
Hey, fuck you, Andrew.
I want two. I want two of them.
It doesn't compare.
I'm just joking. All right. Let's sorry, I used the F word, guys. I'm just kidding.
Yes, reach out to Cooley and I directly. We'll help connect you guys on these. But yeah, cool. Let's I know, thanks for staying on long, you guys. This has been so valuable. So let's hammer out a few more questions.
Richard, I'm looking at you. I could tell you got 99 questions.
Nick, what was your biggest struggle and how did you fix it?
My biggest struggle, so personally, my biggest struggle in this business was setting wrong expectations, over promising and under delivering. And going to that event 3 months ago, speaking with Chris, chilling with Michelle, talking to Greg, made some major changes. And I'd say my income like 5x since then. So really, you never know what you're going to learn. Like that little tip that, like, imagine every appointment you've been on and you haven't asked for the business more than 3 times, and you start doing that on every single appointment you go on. That's something that can 3 to 5 times extra your income if you bring your ratio of listings signed to appointments met from 40 to 80%, you know? So that was mine, but.
Nick, you were crushing it, and you guys weren't even pre-qualifying. And then you start pre-qualifying, you're like, holy crap, what's going on here, right?
His conversion rate.
Pre-qualifying is probably the most important thing about the listing presentation.
Real quick, Nick, give them some transparency on your conversion rate real quick, just start to finish. Well, you're not done, obviously, but where did you start versus where you are now, just in a short period of time?
In terms of listing signed to closed?
Yeah.
So when before that, we were taking probably sold only 40% of the listings we took. Wild. And then now in the last 3 months, we're about like 80%.
Hell yeah.
Some changes, you know?
Exposure.
Still learning.
Double my income. And now it's all about knowing your numbers, because now it's about getting my listing appointments to signed up, which like this man Andrew does. I just learned a few things today personally. Once you get that up, then it's leads generated to listing appointments, getting that conversion up.
Ray Wu, you're out in California. I know you have questions.
I got one. Oh.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, I got a question. What is your system with expireds? Like if you call them and they don't pick, if they just hang up on you, do you call them again? Or if you actually get a lead, do you put in your follow boss and you what are the systems that you do?
So if I get a lead, so if I call an expired and they have some interest of selling that I think of, I put them in my follow-up boss. And there's times I hit people 12, 15, 20 times over like a 3-month period before I actually get inside their door. Now, if it's like a fresh expired and if it's a fresh expired that like they've been on the market for quite a long time, you kind of see it's like a nicer one. Like if you call them at 8 a.m., they don't answer. You call them at 9 a.m., they don't answer. Like, and if you don't, especially if you don't have appointments, you call the fresh ones like 5 different times in the same day at different times.
If they just say they're not selling, they hang up on you, which bucket do you put them in?
So like I just would just I don't I don't do that. So it depends. If it's an old expired, I use a dialer. If it's a fresh expire, I hand dial. So like I would leave them in the expired folder and just not put. And if they say they're not interested, they're liars because they just had their market on the home on the market for 6 months. I just didn't break through.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Chad.
Love it. Who else? Who else do we have?
Hey, Nick, or whoever, how much time are
Patricia
you guys
didn't-
spending on like individual, like FISBOs versus expired, like new, old, etc.? Does that make sense? Do you have a system like every day where you're like calling these at these time in this order or whatever?
Yeah, so 8 a.m. I start off with fresh. I only have probably like maybe 5 to 6 fresh expireds a day, maybe like 30 on the first of every month. After I finish all of those, I go right into like all old expireds. I'll just rip old expireds like crazy. Till about like 9. Then I switch over to FISBOs for about 30 minutes, and then I spend a lot of time in my database. I'll probably spend an hour in my database doing my top 10s, my hots, my warms, my nurtures, and my long-term databases. Because, Greg Harrelson always talks about it. It's monetizing the no as well. Like if people aren't ready now, you want to get their emails, put them in your database, and market your database through email, through listing alerts, whatever you guys use. Because if you can see people raising their hand a year down the line, like looking at an email or something, it's a great indicator to call them. Because people, you don't trust what they say, you trust what they do. If they're looking at real estate online, they're thinking about transactions sooner rather than later.
Nick, quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
You made mention earlier in regards to some of the newer agents in your process. I think you said practice, prospecting, servicing. What was the last two? I believe there was a couple more. Is that correct?
It was appointments and then prospecting if there's no appointments. Because like really, what else do you guys need to do other than that? If you're not practicing or learning, you better be prospecting. You better be on appointments. If you're not on appointments, you better be prospecting. And if you're not on appointments and you're not prospecting, you're definitely not servicing because you ain't got business.
Facts. Good stuff.
Facts.
Patricia.
Trish, unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I guess my question and something that happens to me when I'm like looking at the fresh expired data is like maybe I'm overcomplicating like which ones to call and which ones to not call. So do you like look at the property before you call them, or are you just calling?
I just call them.
I just called right down the list.
Here's a little thing I can give you guys too. Exactdial.com. I love it because it mostly has the numbers. So if you use My Plus Leads, if you use like Red X, all of them, and you get a lot of wrong numbers, usually there's like one number or one email that's kind of still associated with that person's like profile. So you can reverse skip trace these people and pull up other numbers. So like, just think about it. This is where you got to think of the advantage and think of the things that other people aren't willing to do. If the data's wrong on My Plus Leads or Red X, and everybody's data is definitely wrong, but they have numbers still there. You take that number, you reverse skip trace it, and it pulls up it pulls up other numbers for them, and then pulls up other relatives. And this is now, think about it. I'm the only one who has this number. So like, that's a little, like, just little things like that. The details, they add up.
Nick, I love
Plus,
that you said
Patricia,
that because
if you're looking at what color somebody's begonias are in their front yard before you call, you're doing everything wrong and it's not helping you. And if you're talking about it, you're off script. If you think you're giving yourself an in by going, hey, I know you have a 2,200 square foot home, not helping you, right? It's ensuring that you're having the wrong conversation instead of the right one, right? And if you think about it, like I spend 3 minutes or 2 minutes in between calls to research property. It's not a lot of time, right? Wrong. Like you add that up between 60 dials. What's 2 minutes times 60?
120 minutes.
That's 2 hours that you're wasting about begonias in somebody's yard and their picket fence. And guess what? that time invested, most of those people aren't going to answer the phone, meaning you're investing time into people who you're never, ever going to talk to. You compound that over weeks and months and years. That's hours and days and months you spend doing absolutely nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Next
Patricia,
up.
Patricia, watch this real quick. We list on average about 5 properties a month from wrong numbers. And so
I got 2 buyers from wrong numbers.
Happens all the time. Hey, where'd you get that seller from? You know what? I was looking for Joe and I found Bill. And so, and you know, it's about capitalizing on the conversation. So if you talk to somebody and you're like, I don't know anybody with that address, like from what Nick's talking about, those numbers, this is how these people get this data, Patricia, is when you go to Jiffy Lube to get your oil change, you put your information in there. So when somebody's like, oh, I've never lived at that, I don't know anything about that address. Bullshit. At some point in time, whoever had that number put it on a form and that data was sold. So you know what? It may not be where they live now, but you want to continue to ask more questions. So like when Nick's saying, hey, you get a certain set of numbers, it may be a cousin, it may be this, it may be that. Well, heck, you know, if you can identify who it is that they know, well, I have a buyer for their property. I'd love to bring a buyer for their property. The property came off the market. It seems like this may be this relative to you. And before you know it, then that person gives you the correct number for the person you're trying to get a hold of. Right. And so when you're getting wrong numbers or you're looking to find the real person, you can usually get that information from the information that you already have. You just got to like not want it to be so easy and want everybody to go, hey, yeah, that's me. Are you an agent? Want to list my house? That's never going to be the case.
I want you guys to think about how long you've been in real estate, right? And how much money you're trying to spend, how much money you've spent, energy you've wasted looking into bullshit. Okay. When you see a lot of these top producers are doing the same thing, the difference is like a lot of these top producers in your industry, guys, they'll say fancy stuff like AI and never talk to a lead ever and make $1 million a year in real estate. All of these guys built their business based on the stuff that you're hearing about. And now they're trying to sell back to you a way out after they've had their business established, right? If you surround yourself with the right people and you do the hard work, you're going to win, right? The question is, are you working with people who are more skilled than you, right? Or are they more passive than you, right? Because one thing that I can tell you is the grass is damn green at the co-founders group. All right. So if you guys need high level people to really dig into your business, don't be afraid to hit us up. I'm Mr. Chad Cooley on Instagram, Texas Real Estate Goat on Instagram for Chris Hardy. Nic Trani, what's your Instagram handle?
Everybody's Instagrams, you guys, in the chat. So all of our panelists, as well as us, so you guys can reach out.
And you'll see, guys, that 19-year-old girl, that Disney princess that I was talking to you about, if you look at this girl, she's just a cute little Disney princess, right? She's now one of the top agents in her marketplace at like 19 or 20 years old. And she does this, all the things that we're talking about here. So you might think you're not smart enough. You might think that. You might think that you're not good enough, right? You don't have the talent. You don't have what Nic Trani has naturally. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case, right? I got really good at what I did because I'm not easy on the eyes, right? And I don't have a strong jawline, right? So I had to rely on a skill set more than anything else. You know, I couldn't compete the same way that like a Chris Hardy who's jacked and he just has that presence about him. I couldn't compete that way. So I went really hard on a skill set, and I've gone even harder trying to teach people who feel like they can't how to actually do it with that skill set. You know what I mean? And so I want all of you guys to think about it. What are you doing every day? Are you spending your time and your money on bullshit? There's a multi-billion-dollar industry out there trying to sell you guys stuff that you don't actually need and that you're using as an excuse to not get to work. Role playing with AI bots. Why would you do that? You know what I mean? Why would one of my agents was role playing with Andrew Tate the other day on AI bots? And I'm like, why would you do that? It's an excuse to make you feel like you're being productive, but what you're really doing is avoiding the hard work. And as Chris Hardy does love to say, and I love this phrase, what you're really trying to do is
get lucky.
Get lucky. You're really trying to get lucky. If you're not skilled, you're trying to get lucky. And I want to thank all of you guys for jumping on here today. If you got any questions at all, or you need help in your business, hit us up, man. We're not hard to find. We gave you our links. We gave you the Breakfast Club. You have all that. All of these people in this community, guys, in this co-founders group are so sharing with their time, are willing to answer your questions and work with you. The question is, do they give a shit about your business more than you? Do you actually care about your business? Do you want to win? It's not that difficult, but it does require hard work. So I want to give a round of applause to all these guys who jumped in here today. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And we're gonna wrap it up. Breakfast Club tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. Nothing but holiday objections, and it's gonna feed you during the winter. So let's go, squirrels, and let's start packing some nuts for the winter. That sounded weird, but let's go anyway.
Thank you.
All right.
We're gonna do this one again,
guys.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That Christmas music at this in the mornings, man, that shit gets me grooving.
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey.